Welcome back to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Yak Gadget. For all your kayak fishing accessory needs, go to yakgadget.com. Pelican cases, coolers, and lighting. Go to pelican.com. The 153 Bait Company. For all your hard and soft bait needs, go to the153anglers.com. Now let's get this show started.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Reel Down for another great show. Don't have Drew with me this week. We think we've got a new baby here. I didn't want to bother him, but pretty sure that's the case. So congrats to them, and prayers and hope all is doing well. For anybody catching this on YouTube, Facebook, or anything that's getting the video feed, y'all already see the guest for this week. For everybody listening, the man needs no introduction if you follow kayak tournament fishing, which if you're listening to this, I know you do. But without any further ado, the 2021 Hobie BOS Angler of the Year, Mr. Jordan Marshall. What's up, brother?
What's up? How you doing, Jimmy?
Man, I'm getting it. It's been a hell of a freaking beginning of this week. I'm glad to sit down and talk some fishing with you and hear about what's been going up. But how are you, man? Are you still in like this big fuzz, or like is it starting to calm down and work's already kicking back off? Or
yeah, work kicked back off today. I basically had about a week off, and I got back today, worked 12 hours, and everything's quote unquote back to normal in the world. And, dealing with people again. So.
Wow, that sucks.
I'm excited. I'm still riding my excitement. I think it'll probably take a couple more days for me to come down off that, but I'm certainly.
I think it'll be more than that, man. Every time that, because it'll get brought up 56 more times in the next month. You won't be able to live it down. Everybody wants to hear about it. So yeah, I'm sure you'll get 5 million invites for podcasts, and
I'm happy to do every one of them. I enjoy it. I was telling some guys last night after I got off the KBN that I really do enjoy being on podcasts and talking. Win or lose, I'm no shortage of words. They even mentioned on the camera boat one day when they are on me. They're like, man, we need more people like you to talk while we're filming them. I was like, well, I said, y'all just tell me to shut up because I'm going to keep talking.
I understand that problem. That's something we always talk about. In all these shows, we always end up getting around to like progression of the sport. And we've mentioned it before, just like you just said, or like they said, we've got some great people that don't, I would say, market themselves in the best. And it's not like they're rude or anything about it, but some people just aren't comfortable talking. Like, right. But if you look at that next level, like them guys in the boats, they talk. You can listen closely. The cameramen are asking them questions, which, a lot of it is you need those people there too to be good at their job to kind of get the conversation going. Because I've got some buddies that are phenomenal anglers here in Alabama, and you can't get them to talk after the tournament. Like hanging around with everybody, they're just sitting there like, check. Let me go.
Yeah. There's someone at the TOC. I don't remember exactly who it was, but AJ was kind of proud. And I'm like, hey, what did it take you to do well this weekend? And they're like, oh, well, I just fished offshore a little bit. And it was somebody was making a comment, even after the tournament, after they're holding the check, they still didn't want to give up any secrets. It was funny because there's a lot of us like that don't want to give anything up before, after, during, regardless.
Yeah, for sure. Some of it comes down to how serious some of the people take it too. Like, if you've got anglers trying to do it for a living, I would understand it. But if this is just like your one and done, like this is the one tournament you can make a year, I probably wouldn't tell you crap if I won that either. This is all I got.
Yeah, I used to be a little bit tighter lip with those kind of things, and then I realized, as much as you travel and fish these tournaments, very rarely are we going to come back at the same time of the year to fish the same tournament. So, there's, I fish a lot of run and gun stuff, and that stuff changes so much in the course of a month or two, or come all the way back around to 13 months later when you come back for the same tournament like you follow. Right now, this past weekend, we're going to go back there in the spring. Everything's going to be different when we get back down there. So, I mean, I really had no problem saying, what I was throwing, because, I'm going to probably throw the exact same thing when I go down there again and just fish a different area.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Just because you have every piece of the information don't mean you can do it. Like,
Right.
I can sit right next to you and give you every piece of juice, and you can still not catch them. There's still work to be done and talent to have and skill. And
yeah, one of the best quotes I ever got was, "It's almost impossible to catch other people's fish. You can learn everything in the world about it, but you have to find fish that you can catch. It's almost impossible to catch other people's fish."
that's a killer piece of advice that too many people need to hear about. I don't get I mean, maybe used to. You get caught up in the moment. Man, where were you fishing? What were you throwing? But as you do it for a little while, I don't understand that mentality as much anymore, because there's no secret, there's no magic trick. Like, it doesn't matter. Just like in that, you got to catch your own fish, and you're not going to catch any other someone else's fish. It's so very true.
Right.
But well, wanted to have you on. Obviously, you won the AOY. We wanted to talk about your year as a whole leading into this, because Angler of the Year is not one event. It can be decided in one event, as we saw, but it's a grinding through a year, making it to events, being consistent. But what I wanted to do first was just go over a little bit of your stats, not to make you blush or nothing like that, but we like to talk them up. So we'll start with just your 2021 Hobie stats. 13th at Seminole, 44th Watts Bar, 9th at Broken Bow, 102nd at Lake Hartwell. So everybody usually has one that you just would like. I heard a lot of people say that they wish Lake Hartwell hadn't been a thing. I had a lot of folks didn't like it.
I went to Hartwell. I didn't really have a whole lot of practice, and I knew there were guys catching a lot of fish. And I basically went to Hartwell and fished a bunch of off the wall stuff. Like, I went way up the rivers and stuff, and basically just threw big baits and tried to do really random things to just try to knock it out of the park. And I ended up basically swinging and missing on that, and headed home early on day 2. And that's one of those things, every now and then you just kind of have to do that, and accept that outcome, accept those possibilities when you go into a tournament. But
oh man, stuff happens. Like, there's a lot of skill in it, but sometimes there's luck,
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer in taking chances, which is probably why I never do good, because I don't know, I'm really big about not following my gut. Like, I'm like, okay, my gut's telling me this, that can't be right. I'm going to do the exact opposite, and it never works. And I'm too hard headed, I guess. But no, it happens. And that's part of it. But you had a very consistent year. You went from there to the Susky and got 5th, Pickwick and got 6th, and you were 2nd overall at the TOC. So, killer year there. Looking at some of your other stuff you had going for you this year, you're a hammer in Tennessee, and I know a lot of them boys probably don't like paying you up. There's a bunch of them. I got a bunch of friends in Tennessee, and there's you and Derek Bostic and a bunch of other guys, Waylon down there in Central. People are sick of paying y'all.
Yeah, there's lots of friends, and probably some not super great friends that are there within the state. So that's
yeah,
part,
man.
I guess. I'm a big Yankees fan, and I remember a quote. I think it was Mickey Mantle or somebody that said, they don't boo losers. In Yankee Stadium, or when you go other places like Fenway, they said they don't boo losers. So, I got to hear some boos every now and then. I guess that's part of it.
No, man. I'm just down below the state line in Alabama, and I talk about it every year. I'm going to come up there and fish with y'all. And then, when the season's first kicking off, I'll see the stacked names going into some of these tournaments. I'm like, bro, I don't even have a chance. Those aren't my waters. I've never fished those waters.
A lot of absolute hammers. I don't think sometimes people realize how good the entirety of the state of Tennessee is. Lambert's there, Russ is there, Riser's there. My buddy Eric Thomason, which, a lot of people don't realize how good of an angler he is. I see it in our local trail, and I see it because we travel together. He knows what he's doing too. Matt Millard, who finished 4th this weekend at TOC, is up in Johnson City. He's an absolute hammer. And there's a lot of guys, even extremely locally, like here, that they're unbelievable fishermen. Joey Berry's one of them. They're unbelievable anglers, and I don't think people outside of Knoxville and East Tennessee really know who they are, and it's a shame. But hopefully, as more trails and this kind of grows, hopefully some of those guys can get out and fish some more, and people realize how good they are. Because I didn't win the Angler of the Year in my local trail, and I didn't finish runner up. I finished 3rd in the Angler of the Year local trail, because there's 2 guys. Joby won our Angler of the Year, and Daniel Lyons, we call him Pro Neighbor. Pro Neighbor is a fantastic technical fisherman, and he's the exact opposite of me, and I give him a hard time a lot, but he knows what he's doing too.
Who was it it was Joey who?
Joby, Joby.
Joby, okay.
Barry, he's an unbelievable angler. Lives on Watts Bar. He did absolutely fantastic at Watts Bar, and he was in the running for the Chick Bassmaster event this summer too. He's a young guy, fantastic angler. Fishes very slow, the exact opposite of me. So.
I can't do that. Some dudes got it, and that's the ones that you see and hear about their names, just like you're talking about. But I don't have that kind of patience. Well, let's get into it. You kind of talked about it before, but tell us a little about yourself for anybody who may not know who you are, how you got into it, and maybe what you do when you're not kayak fishing.
Yeah, I got my first kayak. My parents bought it for me when I was 16. It was just a plain Jane Pelican Castaway 110, I think was the name of it. And got the kayak so I could fish some ponds by the house and fish the little river by my house, which is a average smallmouth fishery at best. Some people don't even consider it average. But that was what got me into it, was fishing ponds around my house and some smallmouth river. And I was 18, and I posted that picture up with me and Drew as my first kayak tournament. I'd been kayak fishing maybe probably less than 6 months, and went down to Guntersville, and our Tennessee team won, and I finished second in the individual. And after that point, it was just game over. I was hooked. It was everything. I looked at everything, went and learned as much as I could after that. Was watching YouTube videos and everything like that. And it really just snowballed from there. Went to the KBF Open at Santee Cooper the following year, and in my little Pelican out there at Santee paddling around, and that was really tough. We had like a really bad cold front that first day of that tournament. Really, the only thing I remember from that tournament was there was like 200 or so people, and I thought I was the man for being in 20th place or so with 2 fish that probably didn't go 25 inches between the 2 of them.
Hey, and, sounds like nobody else caught much.
Yeah, it was rough, and I got a quick reality check on day 2 when I zeroed, and learn that tournaments get real hard real quick. And I think Corey Dreyer won that tournament maybe, or he did really well. And I remember Ron, that was the first time I met Ron. Ron had big fish at the tournament. He caught an absolute freak donkey that was like 25 inches long or something.
Jesus.
Like that. And swore I would never go back to Santee Cooper. And up until this point, I've kept that promise. But up until I saw AJ's Hobie schedule here this past month or so, I kind of realized I'm probably not going to be able to keep that promise, because that's one of the closer ones on the schedule outside of Chickamauga. So I'll probably end up heading down there. So.
What's your obviously it's probably Chick. Which one are you looking forward to the most next season?
Chick is absolutely not.
Really?
Chick is the one I'm least. If you ask anybody that knows me, knows locally, I friggin' hate Chickamauga. And there's it never any point in time that has ever differed, and I can't imagine it ever changing. I don't care if they drain the lake. I've probably won as much money on Chickamauga as anybody has in a kayak. I could be wrong, but I've fished it a lot. I think it's a great place to catch a 10-pounder. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dumb. You know, I see what's going on there, but what people don't realize is there's 900 other people on a given Saturday trying to catch a 10-pounder when you are, and most of them hate kayaks. And I've had people just cut right in front of me and cast right over the top of my line like I'm not even there. And, you know, there's a lot of days, if you keep up with tournaments on Chickamauga, you know, people see the 30 and 40 pound bags and things like that. But what people don't see is half the people in that same tournament caught 0 fish or 1 fish or 2 fish. There's a feast or famine on Chickamauga. And as far
I was just about to say that.
it's an overhyped lake for average fish and having enjoyable days. But I will be there. That being said, and, you know, hopefully, you know, I'll fish, you know, halfway decent and get a top 20 and just get some points out of that one, because I have low expectations for that event.
I'm going to call it right now. Jordan's going to win that event. I'm going to have you back. I'm calling it now. I'm getting you first, just so I can say, yeah, see?
Yeah, that's fair. But as far as most looking forward to, it is without a doubt Susky. I had an absolute blast there this year. That's probably the most fun I've ever had in a tournament. Maybe the most fun I've ever had fishing, you know, 2 back-to-back days outside of, you know, where I live, just fishing a couple of rivers here with some friends. But Susky's definitely up there. I was so glad to see that. I'd actually heard a rumor that it was going to be the TOC. So when I first saw it on the schedule that it was in the summer, I was a little bit bummed, but at least I was back on the schedule, because I was already licking my chops thinking, well, you know, I didn't get it at, you know, Knoxville when it was here, but if TOC's there next year, because I'd already written Eufaula off. I was like, I'm you know, whatever happens at Eufaula happens. You know, maybe regroup and hit Susky hard next year for TOC, and then it came out in the middle of the year. So glad it's back on the schedule. I'm looking forward to it. And then I think the one that piques my interest the most, as far as curiosity, is the Wolf and Fox Rivers.
Yeah.
I've probably spent an hour looking at that place today and was just curious, you know, where possible boundaries and things like that, trying to figure out whether it's a river largemouth fishery or a river smallmouth fishery and those kinds of things. There's not a whole lot of info on that, at least what I could see, and there's an unbelievable amount of things to just look at as far as, you know, from satellite and stuff like that. I haven't even looked at, you know, navionics kind of things or anything down that line, because like I said, I'm just curious about the whole fishery itself as much as anything. I've never even heard of Wolf or Fox River up until AJ mentioned it. So that one's the one that kind of piques the curiosity. I want to know some more information about it.
Maybe that'll be a cool curveball for everybody, though. You know, a lesser known. I'm a big fan of the lesser known stuff. I mean, I know a lot of the communities may not be about it, but
yeah.
You know, that's something I said last week I liked about the old school MLF was when they would take the anglers, like they'd be in a central area in the state and they'd load up, not know where they're going. They'd give them an hour to run the boat around and good luck. That's, yeah, I mean, a little different with kayak fishing, but very cool concept.
Yeah, I love that concept. I think that would benefit what I do as much as anything. I feel like that's right up my wheelhouse.
Well, so going from there, we'll start talking about, you know, getting to Angler of the Year. As I said in the beginning of this, you know, not a one tournament situation. You know, that takes a year grinding, consistency. First, break down how the AOY structure works for Hobie for anybody who doesn't know, because I know based off seeing some of the social media stuff. There's been people that don't understand, and even those that understand don't know why it is how it is, or have mentioned why not do this, why not do that. Give us a breakdown of how the AOI structure works and what your thoughts are on how it works. Obviously, it worked good because you won.
Yeah, I don't think they should change it whatsoever. Keep it the same. Yeah, Hobie, you can fish as many events as you want. There, you take your best three. Whether you fish three or all of them. They take your best three going into the TOC, and then TOC counts towards it as well. And then, if you finish first throughout the year, you get 100 points. Second, you get 99, etc. down through the list. But the TOC is different because there's only 50 people there, so they do a 2-point increment down through. So first place is 100, and second place is 98, and so on and so forth. And it really puts everybody on. It's the first time all year that everyone is together. There's probably only 15 or 20 people that really travel around and fish more than 4 or 5 the entire year. And I'd say there's probably 10 or less people that fish every single one every year. I could be wrong. That's just, what I feel like the numbers are. But when everybody meets at the same place, that's the only time that everyone's on a level playing field. And I think it should matter more. Our local trail that, I kind of help set up, it's the same way. It counts and it should count more. When everybody's there and everybody can be compared equally, chaos happens. I mean, that's just part of it. It happens in anything. I mean, you see it in college basketball and everywhere else. It's one of those things where anything can happen, and there's always a shakeup. The last couple of years with the Hobie. Last year I went into it 14th and came out 3rd with a 2nd place finish, and this year I went in 8th and came out 1st. And after the end of the first day, I'll be honest, I got back to the house and realized I had a good day, and I started sitting around as me and Eric and Matt were watching TV, and I was like, you know what, I think I might be close to the top of this thing already. What in the world? and, there were 2 of the top 10 guys. Drew, obviously, you hate to see Drew not there, and you want to keep him on our thoughts and prayers. That's obviously very, very important, and he's where he needed to be for that situation. And there was another guy, Brian, that was apparently there pre-fishing and then left, and I never really heard anything about that. So kind of keep him in thoughts and prayers as well, because that's a big tournament to miss in general, and to I think he was even there pre-fishing and went home. So whatever that is, that's something probably serious. So keep him in thoughts and prayers. But after the first day, when there were quite a few guys struggled, I was like 4/10 of a point away from leading it after the first day. And my whole thought process going into the TOC was, I want to win Angler of the Year. At the minimum, I want to qualify for Worlds again, but I want to win AOY. Last year, my whole thought was, I'm out of Angler of the Year. I just want to win the TOC. I want to win it. It's on water that I know. I'm sleeping at home. I've fished that area for the last few years. Man, it's the whole reason I got a kayak was to fish where the TOC was. And there's not a lot of opportunities for people to do that, period, let alone, in that big of a tournament in that stage. And this year it was all about Angler of the Year. And when I got home, I pulled out a cardboard box out of our garbage and dug through our VRBO house drawers till I found a pen, and I was scribbling a pen on a pizza box or something, trying to figure out Angler of the Year points at 9 or 10 o'clock, because I was just, that was the only thing I could think about. It's when I get something in my head, people give me a hard time about it. My girlfriend too. When I get locked into something, I'm locked. Whether I've got to Google it or sit down and write out on a piece of paper and figure it out, I get consumed by things, and the Angler of the Year this year was one of those things I just got consumed with, and luckily everything worked out, and or I'd probably be turned inside out trying to do it next year.
Right. Well, with it being such a big deal for you, I mean, obviously, uh, this is a question I had for later, but do you think that if Bassmaster added the AOI structure in, would you take it as seriously as you would Hobie, or do you think a lot of anglers would take it more seriously?
I personally wouldn't take it as serious as Hobie. I think Hobie is the premier deal right now, and has been for a while. But if Bass did an Angler of the Year, I would certainly be more inclined to fish bass events. And to be completely honest, I fished one, maybe two bass events this year. I'm personally not a big motor guy,
Mm-hmm.
but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. That doesn't keep me from fishing bass, but um, it is one of those things where it's just another thing that doesn't make it as exciting. The schedule too didn't suit me really great, just for events where I might have just got back from a Hobie or something like that, or I get essentially 10 days off a year from work, so I have to really kind of pick and choose where I want to go, and Hobie's my primary focus, so I'm going to choose Hobie first. But it is what it is. If they did an Angler of the Year, I would certainly, that changes things in my opinion, because yeah, I've never won a regional tournament. Outside of a local tournament, I won a Georgia State championship one year that some people don't even know about, which is funny. But I live in Tennessee and won the Georgia State championship, and have never won the Tennessee State championships. That's a fun nugget of information for everybody.
Well, we're not taking it away from anybody in Georgia because they got a bunch of good anglers too, but a little tougher in Tennessee, I'd say.
Yeah.
You got a big old bag of hammers.
Yeah, big bag of hammers, but those Georgia guys, while we're talking about them, those are some of the nicest guys. I enjoy fishing with a lot of those guys. Andy Middleton, Jim Ware, crazy Jim Clark. There's a lot of those guys. I can't mention them all, but there's a lot of guys that are down there that I really enjoy fishing with, and I think they know that, because I try to come down there and fish one or two tournaments a year with them, because there's a lot of groups that have really good camaraderie. The group that Steve-O runs, TVKA, that's a great group.
Yeah, it is. I fished with him a few times, and Steve-O's a good buddy of mine, man. Steve-O does a good job.
Steve-O's fantastic. I actually won their Angler of the Year one year. I was driving back and forth from Knoxville twice a month. I used to really, really struggle on Chickamauga, and that's part of the reason I used to hate it, or still hate it, started hating it. And I zeroed like 2 to 3 times I went down there to fish with them one season. And the next year I was determined to go back down there and learn how to fish Chickamauga. And I basically went down there at least 2 Saturdays a month for 6 months.
Jesus.
That's a 2-hour drive for me. An hour and a half minimum to the upper end of the lake. And I literally would go down there and fish all day. And after the tournament was done, I might drive somewhere on the way home on the same lake and stop and fish till dark and then drive home. I was absolutely that. There were 2 trails down there at the time, TVKA and CBY, which I don't think is still around. I could be wrong, but towards the end of the year, up until both tournaments at the end of the season, I won TVKA's Angler of the Year, and then the CBY, their classic, counted for their Angler of the Year, and I wasn't able to fish it because we had another event. But I was so consumed with trying to be someone that when they showed up to Chickamauga that I knew what I was doing, that I literally fished 2 trails that were 2 hours from me and was going back and forth every weekend, because I just had to. That was the only thing I thought about for basically 6 months.
Well, and I mean, that shows your work ethic. You're where you are now with the accomplishment that you just had for those kind of reasons. I mean, obviously this event wasn't on chick, but putting in the work, realizing like what your weak points are, figuring out a way to, maybe not you just because you said you still, quote unquote, hate that lake. Obviously, maybe you're not where you want to be on it, but you're probably, 100% better than you were then, just from the hours and hours of, even for the traveling for me, I'm doing a lot of my thinking when I'm traveling to and from, how is it going to go and how it went. And then, checking spots off, picking up different pieces of information each place. I mean, it's tons of work, and that's what separates you from a lot of other anglers, obviously. And I mean, most anglers that were represented at the TOC, that's the 50 best in the business, and it's for a reason. I mean, some of them, some people will qualify from having a really good day, stuff like that. But for the most part, probably 70-80% of that field is what it is for a reason. It's those are the people that put in the work.
And something too, I think I mentioned on KBN last night, but I can't stress this enough. The group that was at TOC, you heard it from multiple other guys, and even that group from top to bottom was one of the best groups we've had together for sportsmanship, camaraderie, goodness for growing the sport. On a couple different occasions this year, I'd get in a tournament where it didn't feel like kayak fishing. It was, it felt more like fishing in a bass boat, where people cared way more about what was going to happen at the end of the tournament than they did while they were on the water. And you heard lots of stories this weekend, like from Matt, where guys would show up to a boat ramp and by no means were they essentially out of the tournament. They could have had a good day and cashed a check, but they were behind people that were already there and slightly ahead of them in the tournament. And they're, hey man, let me know where you want to go. I'll stay off that side of this bank. I'll stay over here. Let me know where I can go. And you heard that from Matt about Kurt Smits, and you heard that with Christine about Vanyo. Those type of things are what get people in the sport.
The camaraderie, for sure.
The camaraderie. The camaraderie and catching giant bags of fish when the boaters are struggling. I think those are the two biggest things. The camaraderie and being welcoming to new people, and people going, man, they're freaking stroking fish in those plastic boats.
I love that part.
Whatever you want to call them. When people look at it, half the time, I mean, as well as I do, they don't call them the right thing. And
right.
They're going to look at that and go, man, those guys are catching fish. I might have to try that. And that's that I get frustrated with at times when people say, let's make a tough tournament. Tough tournaments are good to kind of separate things out, but to purposely make tournaments tough year after year, and even certain series that do that, to me, that does not look good, because it's very easy for people to be negative on things and look at that and go, why are these guys bragging about these old boys catching 3 12-inch fish to win a tournament? We can do that on what we're doing already. And, seeing big fish gets me excited, and gets me wanting to go wherever it is that people are catching big fish. And I think that's one of those things where, we can really show off our skills, both in the kayak and our fishing skills in general, when, we get these big tournaments where we're catching donkeys.
Yeah. I've been that's a big thing to me too, is, like you look at, like I go back to MLF again, you saw the negative come in when the first big season happened, and they were like, well, it's a dink fest. Well, then they changed a few rules, changed up where they fish, and it went from, instead of guys trying to put together the big bag of 1-pounders. I mean, there's been multiple 7s and 8s and 9s and God knows how many 4s and 5s come in, and it turns right back into like what we used to watch when we would watch Bassmaster on, like Saturday mornings. And, but like you said, with the camaraderie with our sport, that's what brought me into it. I'd done some Thursday nighters and John boats and stuff, but got into the kayak fishing and everybody was welcoming and really enjoyed it. Wanted to take it to the next level for a different reason, not next level because I think I'm something that can win these tournaments. It's, I like the traveling and hanging out with the people and meeting all of these, the people that everybody knows in our industry. I've never met one that I don't like. Everybody has bad days, but typically everybody's like, they're willing to talk. You don't really catch too many people keeping stuff. Certain things, obviously, you keep to your chest on tournaments, but that's something that I did, like you said, this year, though. It seemed like, and it wasn't just with like the Hobie stuff. It was just all around. There seemed to be a lot more negativity around it that kind of bothered me just because that's not what I wanted out of this. And it's been cool going into the TOC. And it's been a lot of the end of the year stuff that you're seeing the camaraderie come back and all the positivity, everybody having a good time. So that's kind of like rejuvenating for me because I can't stand just all the trash talking and rumors, and that's part of it. But now, as I get older,
I'll trash talk with the best of them if I know somebody. Me and Lambert like to go back and forth, and I'll trash talk with the best of them if I know we're just joking around. I'll get into that.
Now I'll shit talk like that. Now I'll get into that. But it's the people passing around the downing things about somebody, like it's the bad rumors or just all the straight garbage, man. There's just no need for it. And most of the time, people passing that around, they're the ones that are miserable. It's not, Yeah. And there was a lot of that this year, and I was just like, dude, screw this. I'm just gonna. That and on top of work, that's why I haven't just not had my head in it. But this podcast is probably the only thing that's kept me going with it this year. Is I get to catch the positive stuff, talking with you, talking with, Christine and like the Jody Queen. Like you can't not smile and enjoy yourself talking to Jody. Jody is always going to make you laugh. I love that guy. But
we both touched on growing the sport there for a second. Just one of the things that kept me in it this year, kind of kept me in the right mindset most of the year. There is nothing, in my opinion, that grows kayak fishing as much as a weekly Thursday night or Tuesday night or Monday night or whatever you want to do. Our local group is a Thursday night. We have more guys that show up and hang out that new guys and a lot of the guys that travel. We show up and fish Thursday nights and we'll go get something to eat before the tournament and then go, fish 6 to 9 o'clock from April to September. And man, that's a lot of fun to me, showing up and
hanging out.
Hanging out, having a beer with the guys and fishing for 3 hours. And half the time, I don't care if I zero or catch 60 inches, which we're not catching 60 inches on loud most of the year. Most of the time, whoever catches 3 12-inch fish win. But, I spent most of my Thursday night tournaments this year listening to music and in a boom, not boom box, but in a speaker on my kayak, throwing a buzz bait because I just was like, I'm going to show up and throw top water every Thursday night for 3 hours and just see if I can catch a donkey and holler at everybody I'm fishing with, because I'll catch a fish and start hollering at everybody, I got a donkey, and it's like a 4 fish, and I'm at everybody, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, you caught a donkey, and I'm over here like trying to like make it look big and just throwing water and goofing off, and those kinds of things kind of keep the lighter side of everything going. And I promise I enjoy those as much as I do fishing big tournaments, because that's where you get people in the sport, in my opinion.
100%. Yeah, the smaller local stuff, the hanging out Thursday night, because a lot of the times you'll bring somebody into it on those little trips. People you catch people at the ramp all the time. They're always interested in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Always. And you'll catch those. Like if it's somewhere you fish a lot, I've ran back into them in a kayak. Seen them loading up their tracker, and then a month or so goes by, and they're like, "Hey," and they got them on a send. They're giving it a shot, and that they'll be hooked from that. No, I mean that tracker will have a for sale sign on it. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
But real quick, just hopped in here. I thought it was Drew, but he's way too ugly to be Drew. But it's OG man Brian Schiller. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Sorry, I just finished up the other show, but I wanted to jump in here. So,
Yeah.
Did you guys talk about all this nonsense talk after Jordan, my man, did the feat of winning AOY, and now everybody wants to restructure the AOY? What the hell is that?
We kind of hit on it, and he immediately was like, "I love it. Don't change a thing."
Well, the way it is, regardless, anyone's gonna have something to say about changing things. I don't have a problem. I mean, the way it was this year worked out great. It worked out for me last year. Me personally, I think you have to weight the TOC more because that's the only time everybody's together. Now, I think you get the most participation out of doing 3 or 4 events that you keep your best 3 or 4 from for the year. But in my opinion, the only way you differ from that is if you quote unquote a pro trail and everybody's got to dump their entry fee money from the start and everybody's, fishing 10 events, if you can't make it, tough taters. Until that happens, it's an open series like I think it should be. And I mean, an open series you should be able to cull through some things because I promise y'all I'm not going to be able to take my 10 days off and go fish every one of those events on the Hobie Trail as much as I want to, as much as I'd love to go to Lake Winnipesaukee or whatever that is, and up there in the Northeast, which I have no idea where that's even at. New Hampshire, maybe Vermont.
Yeah, I think it's New Hampshire. Yeah.
As much as I would love to go spend a weekend on that fishery or spend a whole week on that fishery, that's just not reasonable until we have something that has more merit to it. Not that Hobie doesn't have merit, but you guys, pro trail.
Career. Like
I just thought it was interesting because the same thing came up last year when Drew came from behind, won AOY. It's been the same since the start. You guys knew it at the beginning of the season, but now after a guy wins, like now you want to bring it up. I thought it was just kind of contradictory, so to speak.
Yeah, and that happens locally too. I mean, I've helped run a trail for the last few years, and no matter what happens, there's always people that think, if we change this could happen, and this is this, that, whatever. If I wouldn't have lost that 20 on day 3, I might have won the TOC and might have $25,000 more dollars. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's one of those things that everybody knew going into it. That's how it was, and I don't think anybody. I read a lot of those posts and even commented on a few of them on KBN and other places. I don't think anybody's being negative about that. I think it's a good conversation to have.
Sure.
But as far as me, I mean, I didn't take anything from it personally.
What I take from it is a few things. There's a lot of like the outside looking in. Maybe you didn't see the person you like. Maybe there were a lot of people not happy about how it worked out for Ewing.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that put in their 2 bits that don't fish. Like,
yeah.
But the way I look at it is definitely conversation will breed, changes and results and bring up things that need to be talked about. But the people that need to, you like as AJ, the people that you listen to are the people fishing it. And for the most part, it seems like the majority of the folks, like we said earlier, the people that take this seriously, like you and everything, they're fine with how it is. And your point's very good about, until it moves to that, we drop 15 G's, 10 G's at the beginning of the year. This covers 10 events, blah, 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 blah. I think it's a good setup. There's a lot of Angler of the Year structures all over the country that I've read about because I was, wanting to figure out the way I wanted to do it for when we were going to do an Alabama Bassmaster series. What structure would I use? There are some crazy ones that some crazy ones. I think that this Hobie deal is perfectly fine. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I like how it can be a nail biter. Like, I don't know. I don't see reasonable argument against it when it's now happened basically the same way in 2 years in a row. It's proven itself. Everybody seemed happy. Nobody walked up to you and are like, well, I'm sure they did playing, but we're like, screw you for passing me in this. But I'm sure they did, but it's just all in love.
yeah, it's one of those things. As long as people are being constructive in what they're doing, I'm okay with any of those conversations, and I haven't seen any that I think are negative. I think they were all good conversations. I mean, the one that I think had the most traction was Ewing's dad when he posted on KBN, and I'll be honest, when I first read that and I saw that and I was reading down through it, and I'm like, why is this dude's dad posting about Angler of the Year on here? And once I read it and got the full, understanding of what he said, I realized like, oh, he's being fair. He's just, putting in his research on what he did. And it worked out where the way he figured it up, where once you average it all out, I would have won by whatever metric that used by average tournament fish or whatever else, and me and Ewing would have been very, very close. And by no means did Ewing have a bad year. Ewing had an unbelievable year.
Absolutely.
And Ewing's awesome. I tell them Carson Newman boys, I said, I'm just 30 minutes away. If y'all ever need anything, call me, because y'all are like little brothers to me. And love them both. I hated he had a bad day one, but the competitive side of me, like I said, the first day of the tournament, and I started looking around at who had bad days and who had good days and who wasn't there. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't licking my chops after day one, going, what? let's see if we can close this thing out.
And like I was going to say it earlier, as much as like we said, prayers for Drew and Haiti couldn't be there. You could be like, that's just one less person I've got to contend with. He because he was he was drooling for a repeat. So
yeah.
And Drew's an unbelievable angler. He's a very, very consistent angler, and he's somebody that has found his niche with what he likes to do, and he's very good at finding places where he can fish comfortably. And you hate that Drew's not there, but from a competitive standpoint, there's no one in that room that didn't go, okay, well, that's one less person we have to beat, because when Drew's there, you have to beat Drew.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of guys like that. I'm there, over half the TOC fields like that. When you see those guys there, it's like, okay, I've got to beat this person. I got to beat Jay. I got to beat Cody. I got to beat Russ. You got to beat Christine. You got to beat everybody. And when the dust settles and you come out on top, there's only one way to be, and it's very, very appreciative.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Well, like one of my next questions was like, you just said it, appreciative, but what does this achievement really mean to you? Like, is it just a check mark off the list of things you want to do, or does it change your mindset going on from here? Which also is part of another question. Like, this is such a big achievement because this tournament is regarded as, the real deal, just like it says Tournament of Champions, and their AOY is the AOY to be, does this take it from being a hobby to now take that next gear, switch that next gear into making this a career, trying to, well, what's your take on it, from winning this moving forward?
By all means, I enjoy my job, but if somebody walked up to me tomorrow and was like, hey man, we're going to start a pro kayak trail. We're going to give you 50 grand to go run around and fish a kayak. I feel like this past weekend kind of put me in a conversation to where, kind of might have bumped me up a couple notches. If
100%.
If I'm being honest, there was the fantasy kayak fishing thing a couple of years ago, and I have not forgot. There were like 10 or 20 guys in the class A or class 1 or whatever that was on the fantasy thing, and I was in the B group, and I'd be lying if I didn't say that pissed me off.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
I saw that and was like, I don't agree with that. And I feel like I'm a very consistent angler, and I feel like because I hadn't won an individual tournament that's, regional or national or whatever else, that I feel like I get forgotten about sometimes. And, like I mentioned on KBN last night, I feel like the Hobie AOY, if I could put it for one word, would be validity. Because, I don't want to be, looked over. I certainly want people to know, like, when I come to a tournament, good, bad, or indifferent,
You got to beat me, just like you just said about certain other people.
The same way I know I've got to beat Russ or Jay or Cody or whoever else whenever we go somewhere. And I'm not hope, but I certainly think that I'm in that upper level now, and that's one of those things where obviously it's a checklist thing where I wanted to do that, and that was my goal going into the last weekend was the AOY. And it's a check mark, but there's still check marks that I need to take care of, and that's one of them that I feel like I took care of.
Oh no, very proven, and validity is the best word to use for it, in my opinion, because you do have your anglers that people, obviously the first names that come to people's mind when they think of the higher level kayak fishing, but doing anything that puts you above the rest in Hobie right now is that thing. I mean, definitely the guys carry weight winning Bassmaster events, winning KBF events, but if everybody is looking at this from a going professional, futuristic thing, they're looking at that because that is the angler of the year to win right now. I mean, KBF's got a big one too, but it's the Hobie level's just totally different. And even though you didn't win that tournament, I mean, second place last year. Like, that's consistency, and consistency is key. I mean, there's so many ways to be. Like, I've talked about it before. Being a great angler means that you can be great in the fishing industry, but you got guys that are like good here and there. You got guys like Gerald Swindle that I think they only have like one win, but they market themselves well. And then you've got just the consistent people that you always hear about. So there's so many ways to take these steps, and doing that in Hobie right now, like I guarantee you, it wouldn't. Your name forever now is etched in the stone. Like, you'll be, people will be like, "Damn, Jordan entered this tournament." Just like the guys in Tennessee already know. Like,
yeah,
they're like, "Damn, Jordan entered this tournament."
That's something I'm planning on doing a lot more of. You mentioned marketing. I've got GoPros, and I'm terrible and forgetful about doing that and keeping my GoPros with me and charged and all that stuff. But marketing is something that I'm trying to work on. I've got I'm working on my YouTube. I got my logo. I got it printed up on the wallet. If y'all know Chase Tanner that has the Threadfin apparel and does a fantastic job with that. He actually helped me design the logo and that wallet. And that's
for anybody, I'm going to give him a shout out real quick. Not sorry to interrupt. He did some stuff for us, Music City Outdoors in Nashville. Threadfin apparel, Chase Tanner. Threadfin did all the new canoe stuff. Like, Chase Tanner is if y'all give him some business, I'm sure he's already got too much, but check out Threadfin apparel he'll do the artwork. There's like one-time art fees you can order from him. Any kind of shirts. He gives you lists, color options. He's really easy to work with. He's always communicates. Check it out. But continue.
Yeah, that's something I'm gonna use. This is for momentum. By no means am I gonna go out and email 9 million people and ask for pro staffs or whatever. But I think I'm getting to the point, at least my personal views are to the point where I feel like I've been consistent long enough to where I feel like that if I say I'm using something that carries some weight now.
Definitely.
You know, people have mentioned that in the past. You know, why don't you have YouTube? Why don't you do this? I a lot of times get frustrated watching YouTube because A, I don't trust anybody, and B, I don't particularly. It's not that I don't care, because that was what I was going to say, and that doesn't sound right. But when I don't know the situation for a lot of people when they're YouTubing, there's a lot of guys that fish areas that are stock ponds and rivers that are just unbelievable. I grew up and fished a tough fishery in Fort Loudon. If anybody wants to know how tough that place is, look at the MLF wild card or whatever it was just here like 2 weeks ago. They had a 2-day tournament with 160 boats, and 14 pounds won in 2 days, or 13 pounds or something just stupid.
Jesus.
That's crazy.
And half the field zeroed. Not a single person caught a limit for 2 days.
That's nuts.
Winner had 7 fish in a 5-fish 2-day tournament. He came up 3 keepers short. If you want to talk about tough fishery, if you post a YouTube video and you come down here and wreck them, then I'll be more than happy to watch your YouTube video. And I think that, you know, when I'm looking through stuff, when I'm looking at YouTube, I'm looking more at product and things and people that I trust, like Tactical Bassin. I watch some of their stuff. Now they get.
I should be able to sign them off as like a tax deduction, because I spend a lot of money because of those dudes.
Yeah, you know, I like those guys, and you know, I think they get repetitive and recycle stuff because they get new people that watch every year. I think they have like a spring cranking video that's basically the same video that they just re-record and change a few things every year, and that's, you know, I get it, that's fantastic, but I'm not going to sit down and watch that. So I've always been in the mindset of, why would anyone want to watch me, a kayak fisherman, go out and do a cranking video when there's guys like Tactical Bassin, Wired to Fish, and things like that. And, you know, now with a little bit more time and perspective of different fisheries, I think I have something to offer now that I wouldn't have had a few years ago. And that's as much people wanting to watch me because they know who I am, as much as it is watching for what I could offer. Now, if you talk to anybody, I'm not a very technical person. I'm not going to say, hey, use this 8-pound line instead of 10-pound line because it goes 6 inches deeper. I fish too fast to know whether it's going 4 inches deeper, 6 inches deeper. I don't care as long as I'm cranking and it's hitting the bottom. And I think I can bring a perspective to YouTube and things that I'm planning on, you know, doing that bring a realistic aspect to what most people can do. You don't have to go out and buy everything back here. I mean, y'all can probably see I've got 20 different, you know, Spro crankbaits up there, but if you look, there's about 3 colors that have 20 each of those 3 colors. And the same way with a jackhammer, I either throw a green pumpkin jackhammer with a green pumpkin blade, or I throw a white and chartreuse jackhammer with the silver blade, and that's about it. I buy them by the dozen and just bite the bullet and get them because I know I'm going to use them, and I don't have to worry about, you know, and every single one of them are half ounce. I don't buy some 3/8. I don't buy some half. I don't buy some 1 ounce. I buy them all half. So when I take one off, I put the same one back on. If they're not eating it too well, I slow it down. And if they're eating it great, then I can cover more water and speed up. And I like to keep everything really simple. And I think that's something that's kind of been forgotten about with all the information that's out there. People think you have to go out and buy every single jackhammer of every color. Just buy one color, buy 3 or 4 of them of the same color, same size, and get good with it. And then go from there.
Yeah, a lot of fishing is confidence, and like I'm guilty of it myself, that I went through a lot of, I mean, I still do. Like when I try a new bait, I'll grab a bunch of colors. Once I find one, like you said, white and chartreuse and black and blue are my 2 jackhammer colors. And it took a lot. Probably got $500 in jackhammers over there in colors that I will not throw anymore because I went through them, and like I still every now and then you'll catch me tournament morning. I'll start throwing, fire craw, cranking that bad boy in, and I won't be feeling it. Nope, black and blue. It's black and blue. I don't care what the water looks like. It's black and blue.
Yeah.
But going back to the marketing, the YouTube thing, it hasn't lost its weight, but I look at it a little differently. So people's attention spans are so much shorter nowadays. YouTube videos are great. Some of my favorite as far as kayak fishing would be like Christine and Greg Blanchard, casual fun stuff and tournament recapping, because that's something that a lot of people can catch there, especially like a name like Christine or Russ and Jody, Hugh, these people that people want to know what they were doing. Do I want to see your whole tournament day? No, you can show me the highlights, and show me it differently. Like I do like when you catch that fish and you get that moment. Now that is really, really cool. But, a lot of the, like you said, where I get gear coverage review and stuff, but a lot of it is, people are wanting you to try these things that they try, for affiliate links and stuff like that, which is not, because a lot of people are marketing YouTube to make money off of it. It's not, I want you to know me. It's, I want everybody to watch this because it's monetized and I'm going to get a check from it. That's why I've always been like, I take a GoPro or two with me every trip. It's always running. I don't put together videos. I like to do like Instagram stuff. You can catch really good still shots. And that's stuff like if you scroll Facebook or Instagram right now, it's short clips, obviously, because that's all Instagram does, and really high quality photos of like I work with Bend and Branches. You can get some killer shots of just that paddle sitting still. And that's, to me, marketing is more that now than it is the big long videos. But not taking it away. If someone comes in, like you're saying, with a totally different way of doing it and approaching it that's not saturated or clickbait, then I'm off. That's the kind of video I'll catch. But I'll scroll through right now, and even if it's somebody I really like following, you can tell a clickbait title.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm not even watching it. I don't care who you are. I'm out. Because it's not going to be as cool as you make it sound.
Yeah.
Like, cops got called. No one cares. Like, I would rather see your Facebook post of you just bailing out of jail, and then I'll go back and watch that video. But I know that's not what happened.
one of the goofiest videos I think I've ever watched, and I still make fun of myself for watching it. Somebody sent me a video of, I don't even know who it was, but somebody put a GoPro and strapped it to an absolute donkey, like a 12-pounder, and basically put the fish in the water and tried to get, catch the fish to get the GoPro back or something like that. And it had millions of views. And I was like, I would be so sick to my stomach to put a GoPro on a fish like that and put it in the water. You couldn't pay me that money to do that. And
that $400 camera.
Yeah, well, it's not even the camera as much as it is just the fish, man. I can imagine catching a fish that big and my
delicate fish.
Man, I'm gonna make some money if I strap a GoPro to this thing.
Very true.
And that's that's why if the YouTube thing ever materializes and I start uploading videos and things like that, there's not going to be a whole lot of clickbait, because I don't watch clickbait. I don't want to watch that crap. It's going to be tournament recaps, me floating the river and explaining things that I know how to explain well, and and things like that. Things that I know that I would be interested in, and things that I think people forget about doing. There's a good friend of mine that does kayak catfishing, and he makes more money. He's got more followers off YouTube than Wired to Fish or Tactical Bassin or any of them. And I'm like, I don't know a single other person fishing for catfish out of a kayak except you. And I have kayak fished for a long time. And part of that YouTube stuff, I just don't understand. I don't
Oh
understand
yeah.
how there's that many people watching it. But Justin's fantastic because he found a way to take what he loves and enjoys doing, and he doesn't care whether you watch it or not. If you all ever go watch kayak catfish, I mean, he's obviously very thankful for the people that watch and tune in and things like that. And when he goes live, people tip him, and he's hilarious. I've been on a couple of those videos with him, but you know, um, he would do the exact same thing whether people were watching or not. It just makes it more fun for him that people are watching, and um, that's what I would like to essentially do with bass fishing. You know, obviously, I know that's a long way off. That doesn't happen overnight, and Justin's grinded and grinded and grinded for that for a long time. But seeing the people that watch Justin's stuff, and he's not doing clickbait. He's really learned how to post at the right times and do those kinds of things, and that's what I like. Guys like Greg and guys like Justin that are doing it because they like doing it.
Yeah, that's always been my big thing. Greg Blanchard was the first one that I followed, and the thing I took away that I liked the most was like he shows you the good, the bad, the ugly. He doesn't care. He'll go skunk and put it all on camera. He'll go slay him, put it on camera. You know, I think he won that Hobie event that one year. I think it was one of the first Hobie BOS series events out in California. I think it was. I can't remember, but I remember him winning that. It was all on camera, which was fantastic. You know, and that's what I think a lot of people would rather see, is that more natural. You know, they're not selling you nothing. They would do it if whether you were there or not. You know, just like you said, and that's the way I hope to see more of the kayak folks go. But and it goes back to, like we said earlier about it, is some of these guys don't market themselves well. You know, some of them, and then a lot of people don't think about it until things like happen, like you just did. You know, you achieved a very, very huge, you know, just that thing in the sky that you reached up and grabbed that tons of people want to do and won't be able to do, and it puts you up a level, just like you said, to where you're like, okay, I should be in contention for, or in the talk for anything, and you know, I'm now validated here, and that's when you're like, well, that being the case, I need to step myself up, and that's where it goes from here. I hope more people in our sport see that, because the more you see that, the faster things like everybody talks about the future come. You know, you want these big companies to put big dollars in, more than 10 people have to show them that they can be professional, that they can do this for a living, and it's needed.
Yeah, one of the things I've appreciated, just like last night after I got off KBN, I got text messages last night, Facebook messages even today, with people that, well, I always thought, who would want to listen to me, some young guy from East Tennessee that has a drawl when he's explaining things. That's one of the things I like about Dusty Yakker's videos. He's very articulate. He's got a very good voice. He's got a radio-esque voice for doing those kinds of things. And, you know, I did some YouTube videos, and before I went to post them, and I just would listen to that, and I'm like, man, I don't know about that. I don't particularly like listening to myself talk. And I'm very particular about voices. There's some things on TV I just won't listen to because of people's voices get on my nerves. And it turns out there's a lot of people that aren't super fond when they listen to themselves on camera, when they listen back. And having an outpouring of people that were very responsive and gave me good reviews of being on podcast, both last night and before, you know, when I've been on KBN and stuff. And I have no shortage of words of talking and rambling and things like that, but I can't appreciate all those texts and things enough, because, when you win something like that and you're like, okay, well, how can I do this? How can I move on with the momentum from this? What do I need to do to kind of cement myself and keep myself where I'm at? And you go on podcasts and things, and I'm trying to do everything I can, and I'm second guessing it. Did I say the right thing? Should I stutter too much? Did I pause too much? And get off there, and the first thing I do is start seeing text messages from my friends, from people I barely know. Good job on the podcast. Good job. Congrats this weekend. You need to be on more podcasts, and that means just as much to me is saying good job after the tournament, or whatever else. When you're getting out of your comfort zone and people are still supporting you, that means a lot.
Yeah, it's just, the recognition, yes, but it also is, it lets you know that something that you're out of your comfort zone on, you're doing it right, which, that's something with podcasting. When I first started it, it was rough, because I can talk about anything, but I've never talked in front of a camera and recorded it, and
Right.
then it went from, like you said, I'll listen to some. If I don't like your voice, I can't listen to it. And whether that be how you talk, or I don't mind a Southern drawl. I'm from Alabama. It's, some people, like, if you're going to take things like this, for instance, to that level, I upgraded all of my equipment. I wanted it to sound more radio quality, I didn't want it to sound like when we have these, you guys come in, I don't care if you come in on your cell phone. It's what you have. You're not doing this for a living. I'm interviewing you. Your quality doesn't matter to me. Me as the person that's bringing you on, and, I'm not doing this for a living or anything, but I want it to, we want Paddle and Fin to be huge. We want people to look in and be like, that's very well done. The sound quality is amazing. We still got stuff to work on, but, I struggled with it until, actually a tournament not too long ago. I held the state championship in Alabama, and guys were like, man, love your show. Thanks so much for keeping us in tune with all the tournaments across the country. And that was like, that's why I do that. Okay. Get back to it. So I understand completely, but, we're getting close to closing here. There's one last question I had, and we've kind of touched on it, but where do you see the kayak fishing and stuff going in general? Are you wanting to see that, truly, you said it, you love your job, but you've also, you're a name in the sport, and you're a heavy hitter, you're consistent, you're there. Do you want to have the opportunity for those? Like, if it did come out tomorrow that there was a tournament where you had to drop 10 G's up front or something like that, is that what you want from this sport? Is that next level?
I think there's a lot of people that fantasize about that, and then there's half those people that say they want that. There's half of those people that would actually do it when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
And only time will tell where this all ends up going. There's a lot of people that think it never happens. There's some people that's like, I've been hearing for 5 years, oh, next year, next year, or 2 years from now, next year. And only time will tell, really. I think it's leading up to that. I'd certainly like to see everyone get the opportunity for those kinds of events and that kind of thing. But I really don't know. I wish I did know. The more bigger names get involved, I remember a few years ago, FLW did the kayak tournament at Nickajack.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big deal, man. It's FLW getting into, that's a big name getting into kayak fishing. And then one tournament, poof, gone, never hear anything else about it.
Right.
And, Bass BASS is getting into it, and they kind of dipped their toe into it the first year, and now they're kind of coming out with schedules and trails. And I think if they ever come out with an Angler of the Year, that kind of takes that more serious after that. And right now Hobie's the premier trail, and it doesn't sound like they're changing anything for next year. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what Hobie's plans are, but Hobie's Hobie's the premier event trail. They're the most organized. They have the most loyalty to their trail. They're the most consistent every year. To me, Hobie leads the way with that. I think kayak fishing goes where Hobie goes, and not just the boats. I think the whole BOS trail. I think kayak fishing goes where Hobie goes, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people would argue that, and like it's okay as far as consistency and everything and how it's ran. I agree with you 100%. Just an outside view I have on it is, if Bass could get their shit together with it, and they're slow at stuff, but they're old school. But
Yeah.
the way I look at it, and it's nothing against Hobie, is if Bass took it serious and would put their money into it, Bass could jump ahead just because they have so much. I mean, they've been around 50 years. They've got money. They've got the sponsors already. All they got to do is be like, oh, this is another one of our things.
Yeah.
Just like they do with college.
I don't disagree with that. I just
I don't see it happening. I'll be straight honest.
I don't see it happening either. I just it is what it is with that. I just until something changes and it gets and the whole group itself, I'm not by no means singling any one person out. I just think there's a lack of commitment from Bass as far as the kayak fishing goes. There's a lot of people on the kayak fishing end of it reaching out to Bass, in my opinion, to try to do everything that they can. And I think it's just kind of mismatch on commitment, if nothing else.
Looking at it, the big thing I see is, and I've talked about it tons of times, and just as like I know a decent amount about marketing and business and stuff like that. Like Bass is looking at it as an ROI situation. Like, and that's what people don't understand. And we talk about it. Like they want to see kayak fishing kind of prove themselves before they're going to dump all of their resources in. And I understand that. And that's where Hobie, it's about the angler, it's, and it to me, that shows like Hobie being more grassroots, not saying the tournament series isn't like elite, but like it's about them, where Bass is, it's, well, what do we get out of you? Why should I put my money where you are? And it could change. It's just like me personally working with Bass just here on the state level. I see how hard it is to get anything done or changed, because it's a bunch of older guys that have been doing this for years. What they do works. Why change it? And it's, that's true in so many things. And then one thing you said, about half the anglers that say they would like to see that pro series. I think if someone was to offer it next year, how many anglers could even actually do it? Not even if that angler actually wants to and 100% would commit. And it all comes back circle to marketing. I mean, that's when you have to start leaning on these sponsors for more than the discount and be like, look, this is it. I need you to cut me. I need pay for my gas, pay for my entry fees. And a lot of guys don't want to ask anybody for anything. So,
and if you would have asked me the same question like 5 years ago when we were sitting at Kentucky Lake for a national championship that paid $100,000, I would have told you there was a clear front runner. And to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you the last time I fished a KBF tournament, and I couldn't tell you the next time I'm going to, because I don't want to.
Right.
That they have no validity, in my opinion, anymore, because of things that have happened with that, and things that I've heard are about to happen or going to happen currently. Just they've essentially fallen off the face of the earth, in my opinion. And it's sad to see, because I think they did a great job of getting a lot of people into the sport, and kind of giving us a lot of hype out the gate for that. And they still gave away $100,000 at that tournament, regardless of how you want to look at it. But now that, they're the biggest cluster there is in kayak fishing, in my opinion. I just
that's something I think too. I say it all the time. You can't not say that everybody in this sport owes a lot to Chad and KBF, because none of this would have progressed to where it is without them, from them starting to mistakes that have been made.
Right.
But like I personally hope to see. I've never fished it. I've fished some of the month. I say I fished some of the monthlies. I've literally been on the water once in like the 3 monthlies that I've signed up for because I get too busy. But never fished one of their tournaments. I kind of dodge it just because of the negativity, and I think that's something that's going to hurt them in the long run. Um, I do think that they could have good changes in the works. Maybe, maybe they don't. But like you said, with the validity, have they dug themselves a hole with the kayak anglers themselves to where? And I mean, they still get participation. It's a
Yeah.
conversation for a totally another show.
I think KBF does a great job of keeping monthly tournament hype up because there are a lot of guys that can't travel and do stuff, and kudos to them for keeping monthly tournaments alive. That's something I was never super interested in, but I see how much interest there is. The KBBT has done a good job of giving guys that like to fish online tournaments, month-long tournaments, and all that they do, giving them a platform to do that. And there's by no means nothing wrong with that. I just feel like there's people that are growing, and groups that are growing, trails that are growing, and the hype's growing, and there's certain groups that are falling off quickly.
Yeah. I
And
no, I agree, and that's part of what I mean, and I hope to see that change, but at the same time, something can't grow. Everything doesn't grow with it. There's always the dead branches that have to fall off. Everything. If everything in this kayak fishing scene goes positive, it'll be oversaturated very quickly,
right, yeah.
and it'll hurt itself. Just because you mentioned a couple of the other ones, what are your thoughts on the KFL style format?
Just being honest, I really like the format. And I know there's a lot of guys that like to rag on certain things because things are different. I like the KFL format. I considered starting a team when I first heard about it, and there wasn't enough interest around me to do that, and that's fine. I looked at maybe joining one of the teams that were already on there this year, and had some conversations with guys that had open spots and things like that. But when it came down to it, when they needed, confirmation, Hobie hadn't had their schedule out yet, and KFL didn't really have their schedule out yet. And, like I've talked about before, Hobie's my primary focus.
Right.
And if I knew that I could fish both, ahead of time, and said, hey, we'll work around whatever like that, I wouldn't mind fishing both. I probably fish as many tournaments as anybody in the whole country as far as meetup tournaments. There's at least, once or twice a year, I'll fish 3 tournaments in a week. I'll fish a Thursday night, or I'll fish a Saturday morning, and I'll leave the lake and drive from there and drive straight to somewhere and fish a Saturday evening, Saturday night tournament.
Yeah, if anybody doesn't believe him, go check his Tourney X stats and rankings and stuff, and his list of tournaments he's been in is long.
Yeah, there's a lot of tournaments. We got a lot of clubs in Tennessee. I mean, you ask these guys. I mean, it's they've seen me on the interstate leaving a Watts Bar Saturday morning 10-cat tournament and driving up to Norris for a Clinch Mountain tournament. I've done it multiple times. I've went and fished Loudon in the morning, and then drive to Chickamauga and fish a night tournament. I love fishing. I love the competitiveness of fishing tournaments.
Up with it.
I've been doing it a long time, and I love fishing our small little Thursday night tournaments. And if I knew I could fish both, I 100%. If anybody's watching, and you wouldn't mind if I fished just a couple tournaments with the KFL, I don't care. I just like fishing. If somebody wants me to fish with them, I'll fish with them. So
that's what I was going to say that anybody listening to part of the KFL, and I know Dan Perry, used to be one of our hosts here, that he runs one of the Alabama teams, and I know he would spread the word. Y'all should look at adding Jordan to, like, with your schedule and Hobie being your commitment. Maybe you could get on as an alternate because they do that. Maybe you could.
I would have no problem with doing that. I knew I couldn't commit to it, and that's not fair to the guys that's primary commitment is KFL. And I I didn't want anybody to feel slighted that I jumped on because there's no Tennessee teams, and that was one of the Alabama teams I actually was talking to, and I didn't feel right taking somebody's place when I didn't know how many tournaments I could fish, if it was 1 or 6 or however many. But I just like fishing, man. There's a lot of great water everywhere in Tennessee and Alabama, wherever. I just like fishing, and tournaments are a bonus. The competitiveness of that's a bonus, and if you do well in a tournament, that's icing on the cake.
Heck yeah. And you've got a hell of a start for next year, man. You cashed some big checks this weekend, and you can turn that money in right around, and at minimum you could say that your entry fees is paid next year. So
yeah, absolutely. Outside of saving a little money on the side for Uncle Sam, and maybe buying a piece of property and getting out of my mom and dad's hair, which I'm super appreciative. They've let me chill at home and run around the country and chase after little brown fish for a few years now. So I can't appreciate them enough. I don't know if they're watching. It don't really matter. I need to thank them anyway, but
just don't tell them what you won. They might be like, well, so the rent went up.
Oh
and
yeah. They've always been super helpful of helping me out and things like that. My dad got me into fishing and fishing out of a bass boat when I was 13 or so, and that's kind of the lead into the kayak and things like that. So, hopefully, take some of that money, give Uncle Sam a little bit, and put some money down on some property. Maybe, get me a place where I can have more than this barn that all my tackle is in right now, and basically everything's in.
Yeah. No, man. Well, you're on your way, and I think moving forward, I think we'll definitely be hearing about you more on here. I'm still gonna call it. I'm gonna say you're my pick for winning chick, the Hobie event. I got your spot reserved.
You're the only person choosing it, man. That's a wild place, especially that time of year. There's going to be some really good offshore fish caught, and if anybody knows me, knows I don't fish offshore. So I'm gonna
come fish that event just to donate my money and be back there when they say that you won, because I'm gonna stand up in front of everybody. Just I told y'all.
Fair enough.
Well, man, I appreciate it. I didn't mean to keep you so long, but it's a great conversation. I loved having this talk with you and getting your side of the story, just because the Angler of the Year with Hobie is a big deal. We didn't get to talk with Drew about it last year when he won it. He's touched on it here and there since he's been co-hosting with me, but I greatly appreciate you coming on, and good luck to you with everything, going into next season, man.
I appreciate it, man. I love being on the podcast. Holler at me anytime. Hey, we didn't get to talk about the lakes individually, but I think we had plenty to talk about anyway.
Yeah, man. And I'm sure, I've said it last few weeks, we're coming into our off season. This is the last tournament I'm covering as far as right after the event happens. And I've got topics wrote down. I'm probably going to hit you up here in the next week or so, all the way up through Christmas. I'm going to be recording shows. So we may break it down even further. You can tell me what you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'm not planning on fishing hardly anything. I might just get out and fish the rivers while they're still good and they're still running water through the TVA system. But it's golf time for at least a couple months.
Oh Lord, my man's got too many expensive hobbies.
Yeah, no joke. I was playing in a golf tournament probably a month ago, so I can't do anything without being competitive, unfortunately. So
I feel you. Well, I appreciate it, man, and I'm sure I'll talk to you again soon. And good luck again, and thanks so much, and have a good night, man.
No problem. Appreciate it. Have a good one, Jimmy.
All right, folks. Well, that was probably one of the favorite episodes I've got to do. I hope y'all enjoyed just taking it a little bit of a different route. I'm sure all of us as podcast listeners, you're going to hear about the tournament itself on one of the other shows, and you'll probably still hear about it here, because I really do. I'm sure I'm going to get Jordan back on. We're going to break that down, maybe break down some of the other lakes that he fished this year with Hobie. Like always, we'll do a little bit of a tournament recap from previous weekend, just 3, so it won't take too long. Actually, it might be 4. It's 4. The one we just covered, the Hobie BOS Tournament of Champions on Lake Eufaula, 50 anglers, 5 fish limit each day. Christine Fisher with a huge kind of upset win over Jordan with 240.5. Jordan came in second, 236.25, and Ron Champion came in right behind him with 235. Kayak anglers of Florida, Sunshine State Trail, were on Lake Kissimmee. 58 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Chris Mitchell, 86.75. Second place, Mark Pasamato with 85.75. Third place, Richard White, the third, with 82.75. The Tennessee Kayak Anglers Tournament on Loudon and Tellico, 29 anglers. First place, John Sechez with 57.5. That's a 3-fish tournament. Second place, Josh Sharp with 53 inches. Third place, Eric Miller with 52.25. Last but not least, the North Texas Kayak Bass League on Lake Athens in Athens, Texas. 29 anglers. Mr. Clifton Allen, 85.25 for the win there. Second place, Paddle and Fins' very own Dustin Nichols, 84.75. So close, Doo-Doo. You did great, man. And third place, Jacob Smith with 81.75. Well, that's it, folks. Another great show. Sorry we missed Drew this week. Hopefully we'll get him back on soon, but they's having a baby, so we ain't going to bother him. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Make sure you like and share this up. Share that show post. Help Jordan out. Let's help him get his foot in the right direction with the marketing. But we'll talk to you next week. Peace out.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and-fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and-fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com